I'm Bobby Hoon, and let's queer up business. Grindr backs new age verification bill as LGBTQ users watch debates closely. Grindr is throwing its support behind a new age verification bill introduced by two Republicans, Senator Mike Lee of Utah and Representative John James of Michigan. In a blog post on Tuesday, the LGBTQ-focused dating app said it backs the App Store Accountability Act, or ASAA, which would create a single secure age verification process at the App Store level and allow developers to receive a verified age signal, end quote. Major tech companies, including Meta, Snap, and Twitter, also support the measure. The bill comes as other child safety proposals, especially the Kids Online Safety Act, KOSA, sparked alarm among queer advocates who say that its broad duty of care mandates would pressure platforms to suppress queer content. Critics argue KOSA would empower conservative groups like the Heritage Foundation to influence what young people can see online. Supporters of ASAA, including Grindr, argue that this narrower, standardized approach focuses on age verification without regulating speech. Grindr's head of global government affairs, Joe Hack, wrote, quote, "We invest significant resources to prevent and remove underage users. We support Representative John James's App Store Accountability Act because it strengthens this work. This approach, supported by nearly 90% of parents, is safer and more consistent," end quote. Senator Lee, who voted against the earlier version of KOSA, told The Verge that he believes it, quote, "opens the door to what could turn into political censorship," end quote. I mean, it's not a big surprise. That's the Heritage Foundation is planning, or many other conservative bodies, including Moms for Liberty, and the administration itself is planning to classify all LGBTQ content as adult content, and therefore screen out anyone who is struggling to come out, or struggling to identify their sexuality or gender identity, and to make sure that these people feel isolated, alone, and prone to propaganda and self-harm. That's the point. The cruelty is the point. But now, I kind of I would say not bad about the idea. Look, the App Store already know my name, my address, my credit card number. They certainly know my age. So why not use the App Store to verify age? The question is, how do you separate, for example, if a kid is buying something from the parents' App Store, how do you authenticate that who is buying it, who's using it?
That might be why all the different for-profit companies that would prefer to not block people getting on support it, because it's not. But like, you know,
I mean, it is a problem. Some people some teenagers are using Grindr, and that's a big problem.
Well, but the other issue is like all these new attempts to really create all these age verification and restrictions on the internet is about new forms of censorship at the end of the day. Whether we're talking about it for this way, we're talking about the other way, like. What are you going to decide what is and isn't adult content on the internet? Yeah, it's easy for something like Grindr or an adult website, but once you go anything past that, like, is Breitbart an adult website? Some people would make a very good argument that it is. I would say it's censorship to block that awful website. Is, you know, Queer News Tonight an adult content? I wouldn't say so, but I'm sure many people would make that claim. So once you start making age verification easier, you're just going to see everything just say, oh, well, you need to be an adult to see everything.
And then you look at, you know, authentication. You know, you look at all the cybercrime that's out there, and no matter where you stand politically, we can all potentially be a victim of that. And, you know, it's interesting times that we're in. You look at AI and how that's going to affect things. And, you know, there's probably some kids out there, unfortunately, who get mommy's or daddy's credit card, or they get some kind of allowance on credit, and the parents don't do a check. And, you know, it's...
Ultimately, the responsibility of these app behavior and online behavior comes down to the parents. The problem is that the parents seem to want to abdicate it to the legislature, who want a technological, that one-size-fits-all solution to the problem.
Is this even coming from parents, or is this just coming from conservative Republicans who just want to be a nanny state?
No.
Both.
Well, and I'm going to say this, and you know, you might not agree, or you might think it's coming from left field. Before all the internet and these apps, you go back and you hear the sort of the stereotypical thing. I think probably more teenage boys, but you know, maybe looking at their dad's or Playboy magazine or something like that, and that there was no way to censor that outside of the home. And now that we have the World Wide Web, or cyberspace, anything's possible. So it should be interesting to see how everything develops in the future. Well, there is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by sharing them and subscribing to Queer News Tonight.